104.7 Heart FM, Nico and Vince. Am I wrong? And you can join us with Heart FM.
Am I wrong? Am I right? Maybe. That was one of my favorite stories that I told the officer that drove me to the hospital when I called myself in to the report that the system was corrupt and that they were in on it. Or maybe not them specifically, but at least the Brantford police were. And they looked at each other and gave a code and a nod and told me to pack up and they were going to take me in. And I thought they were actually looking to help because I figured there must have been something wrong with me because I woke up happy and went to bed happy and spent the majority of my time happy, other than when I went through a low phase because I stepped back when I knew that I needed to move forward. And then because I lost momentum and faltered at that point, then I stepped back when I knew I needed to move forward another time right nearby that opportunity, and it was just a really bad cyclone effect where I ultimately got into a really low state and got to experience what the majority of people experience a lot of the time. And I almost didn't make it because I didn't understand how someone like me that cared less about money, though I'm always provided for because that's how the universe works if you trust and are willing to have faith. We truly are in the right place at the right time in order to say yes to the divine opportunity that crosses our path. If we are willing to have eyes to see what others would see to be oblivious to, or seem to be oblivious to, and yet we saw it as an obvious next option because it was where we were pulled, and that's how the intuition leads us. I told the story of maybe, and I've told it many other times, and so you'll have to go find one of those rhymes. But my point in saying that is maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but you are the one who has to decide how it feels, how my truth fits and sits for you. So it's not actually about whether I'm right or wrong specifically. It's about how the information fits and sits for you. So I would love to know what this message means to and for you. And to also say, maybe I've got some good stuff coming. I do have some good stuff coming from my humble perspective. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share my life's work over the last 4+ years, 10 since I got certified as a coach, teacher, speaker with the John Maxwell team. As a founding partner, got myself in that room because I hired a coach to coach me because I knew I needed to experience that which I wanted to do. Because when I was 19 and I switched programs and began taking an English degree knowing I didn't want to be a classroom teacher, I needed to find something to do with that certification I was spending all kinds of money for, and my family too, because they helped me a lot. And ultimately, I found the term life coach and was a huge fan of Louise Hay and her You Can Heal Your Life book. And so I ultimately found the term life coach and had no idea how I was going to do it, but I set my mind to it and agreed to say yes when the opportunities arose. So when I found a mastermind group on Think and Grow Rich, I said yes, and I participated for 9 weeks. And then when I had enough money because I got a job that I manifested because of what I learned in that experience working with youth in conflict with the law. Ironic, given Friday is when I have a summons date, and it was a chipmunk that I didn't kill. Oh, But it was so small I didn't even see it. Wow, how significant. I'm so grateful I didn't crush that little guy. Wow. So yeah, I was working with youth in conflict with the law and teaching leadership and communication skills to students in classrooms, using experiential exercises and activities in order to open discussion and include everyone in that discussion. It was magical, and I had amazing mentors. And I can't even imagine where I could have found a job like that if it had not been because the divine had my back. The universe has our back, as Gabrielle Bernstein's book says, as the title. I've not read that one, but I did read Spirit Junkie, or part of it. And I met her when I was in England as well, at a Hay House conference where I paid to attend one of her workshops, which is a story for another day. But the point of this is to say that I got that job, and then when I had enough money to be able to hire a coach, I hired the one who had taken me through the mastermind group. And then on our final session together, the 12th one, where I had always shown up in drama and trauma and wanting solutions, wanting answers from the expert, the one who knew more. And so I would show up with my problems and what I was facing that week, and then my coach would then tell me what she had been dealing with that week, because her thing was that you get who you are in life. And so her being my coach meant that what I was dealing with was what she was dealing with, so how she had solutioned her problems could be ways that I could solution mine. So it's a theory that is not wrong. It's not right necessarily either. We have to just see what's right for us. And at the time it worked because I was in need of that. Now I would not want a coach like that because I am more resourceful and I see myself as more resourceful. And so I would have wanted a more active role in the solutioning process. And I understand how to coach well. So that wouldn't work for me now, but it did for me then. So it's all about where we start. It's our starting point. And I say all of this because every week that I went to a session, which was every other week largely, except till near the end when my contract was running out and I knew she couldn't answer my question because it was going to be around what do I do next and will it be extended, and she couldn't answer those with any sense of more certainty than what I had, because even though I trusted that she had some kind of superpower or was gifted in some way that I wasn't, I knew that she wasn't going to be able to give me truth. And so I delayed it until March 10th, 2011. And I finally, before that session, set down my intention to find out how do I become a life coach, which was the whole reason I had started working with her 6 months earlier, or however long it was. And what's interesting is that she had actually been given the email launching the John Maxwell team program that afternoon. First one, she got it because she was certified with the Bob Proctor's Life Success Consulting company that Paul Martinelli was a president for. Before then he switched over and began working and ultimately built the John Maxwell team with John Maxwell. And so I got the information that I had intended to receive, and then I scheduled an appointment with the program coordinator and found out the investment and what needed to happen, and I got myself to the bank and I made my first wire transfer of 5,000 American dollars when everyone else thought I was crazy, and I knew that it was exactly what I needed to do. And I was on the first call after my mom, brother, and I got back from Jamaica, where my mom had taken us as her final trip of responsibility as the mother of now adult children. We were no longer her pretty babies. We had graduated. And so that was the starting point for my life in a bigger way than Norfolk County, where I grew up. And I say all of this because it started with the story of maybe. And when I said yes to becoming a coach, I had no idea I was going to enter into a relationship with one of the faculty members and be together with him for 4 years and live over in England with him for 3.5 and his family and fit into his life. And all of what I learned from that experience, all that I was exposed to from that experience, all of it was exactly what I needed at that time. And if I knew what I knew now, then I wouldn't have done it. Just the same as if I knew what I knew then, I wouldn't have got what I got from that coach. Because every new level comes with a new devil, higher rent and new neighbors. And I'm not saying that either he or she are not fantastic people, because they are. But ultimately, I resonate at a different level now. My needs are different now. I went through a lot in giving up my life here in order to move there, and then giving up my life there to move back here. And all of it were stages of reinvention that I went through on the way to this moment now, where I show up with a new energetic signature because I am changed. I've changed and peeled back more of the layers on who and whose I know myself to be. And so all of this is to say, maybe. Maybe. Something that was absolutely horrendous, like getting locked up in the mental health system for 2.5 weeks against my will, against my wishes, against my control, or I didn't have the ability to get myself out once they moved me off of Form 1, which is a 3-day voluntary hold that was not voluntary, and then put me into and onto a Form 3 that was 2-week involuntary hold. I was a prisoner for 2 weeks. It was just in a hospital, so it looked different. But I do believe that if we don't smarten up and actually take our power back as a collective, it is the trajectory that we could share. If we do not start doing things differently and start understanding that if we do not claim our rights, we don't have any. Rights are not something that we can take for granted. Freedom is fought for. It is not just freely given. Our forefathers and mothers fought for us to think that freedom is free, but it is not, let me tell thee. And so I say to you that when I got locked up and experienced the trauma of that whole process, the first few days of which were the worst because I was being tested, I believe. I cannot confirm nor deny any of what some would say, no, that can't be true. And of course that was, I can't confirm nor deny it. My suspicion is that was what it was, and experiences I had would suggest that, which I can share another time. But my point is that had I not been through that experience and then have to come back from having went in there very publicly, Facebook Lives, that I knew was field research on some deep intuitive level, my soul knew, and then I listened to the humiliated loved one that encouraged me relentlessly to delete those videos because of how bad it was for my reputation and my ability to build back better. And so I listened at my lowest point to that point. And that was not my last experience or encounter with the mental health system, because after that, and then having to get the medication that I was forced to take, essentially, out of my system, I then had to build back, and I was in the same space, just a completely different place now. Same place, different space emotionally, I would actually say instead. And so I hit even lower rock bottom February 2020 after a pretty traumatic event in January last year that really jeopardized a lot of relationships with people that had already turned their back on me and then did it again and were not there for me, did not support me, and my idea of who was who in my world got real flipped upside down. And this is significant because when I hit my rock bottom, I checked myself into a crisis stabilization bed program for 5 days and found out that the mental health system does not help anyone. It only sends us further into the mental paradigm, which is not actually helpful if we are looking to move the emotions to be able to create something better. And I had far too much theory without practical application of it before I had these experiences. That then, finally, when I went through all of that and when I went to rock bottom, it then became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. And for 10 months, I wound up working as a cashier at the Superstore in Simcoe. And I told people about Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 and Rockefeller Report 2010 and the fact that it was all laid out what was happening in those reports, and that if we didn't wake up, this was not going to go away, and that things were going to get way worse if we didn't stay aware, if we didn't start becoming more responsible. And I met amazing people, some of whom I am close to now and became the tribe that ultimately were there when ones that I thought would be weren't. And so the story of Maybe is one of the most profoundly significant stories that I've ever told, because my own story has become the story of Maybe. And I encourage you to understand that yours could turn out that way too. Maybe is a very powerful place to be in if we are willing to let go of our attachment to things going a particular way, the way that we thought that they needed to be. And instead of going that way, if we are willing to say, maybe, and love what arises, because it's happening now so that we can let go of the trauma from the past, so that we can truly understand what's ours and find our tribe who vibe at the level that we do without our needing to tone ourselves down in order to fit in with them. That's how we become full, in a way that we never could if we were trying to play small for the sake of making others comfortable. So I say to you, maybe you could leave a message to let me know what this message means to you. And I'm sweating because I didn't turn on the air conditioning. And I wore fuzzy pants because I have this idea in my head that it's gonna get real cold and when it gets dark. And so I prepared myself in advance, and in doing so, I would have normally had the window open or the air conditioning on, and I didn't bother to turn the air conditioning on, and I didn't open the window because I didn't want the sound to distract you from what you needed to hear in order to get the peace that's going to really help make a difference in your world. So it's been a hot mess these last few years, and this drive over is just a pretty sweet ride. So please do let me know what this message means to you, what this message means for you, and what you're going to do with what you heard. Give it a like to help me get this message to more people, and if you think of someone who could use that story, my story, to understand that sometimes we've got to hit rock bottom emotionally in order for us to see the blessing in disguise. And that is what I hope for you. So it's been a long one. I appreciate your sticking around and hearing the tale that rewrote me before the world got to see the book that started the process. I'd love to know what it means to you and for you, so please do let me know below, and know that I send you massive love, kindness, and hope for a future that we are here to bring in together. An empowered one, remembering I am that I am. Most powerful words that you can command. Peace out. Peace in. Laura J. Namaste, namago.